All right, welcome in. We don't expect 49ers cuts for maybe another 2.5, 3 hours. 1 p.m. Pacific time is the deadline, but some stuff is going to start trickling in early. The first 49ers cut of the day is in. According to Matt Mayoko, they will waive T.O.'s son, Tariq Owens, and potentially get him back on the practice squad because this is a developmental prospect for the 49ers. Caught a touchdown against the Chargers the other day. That was his first NFL score. Remember that Tariq is somebody who started his college career playing basketball, kind of like his dad, and then switched over to football early on with the 49ers last training camp and before then and in OTAs after he had signed as an undrafted free agent. Terique Owens dropped a lot of passes, and I think that he cleaned that up, not fully, but to a great degree as the course of that camp went along. And then he suffered a fracture, and that fracture ended up sending him to the waiver wire with an injury designation. Then the 49ers brought him back to the practice squad. He's continued developing. Again, this is very, very expected. Tariq Owens will be waived. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to have a big show once all the 49ers moves do come in. We expect those at about 1 o'clock, but be sure to hit your notification bell to be ready for the news that comes earlier, right? Because the 49ers can drop it theoretically at 11 a.m. or noon, but we expect them to drop it at 1 p.m. And that's when we're going to get the vast majority of names. But just to execute this first move, since we're here, this is my depth chart. We're going to take Tariq Owens. We're going to erase his name. He is now off of the 49ers roster. He has been placed on the waiver wire. So Tariq Owens is the list of 49ers cuts, and the type is a waive. I've got a counter here. The 49ers have 7 total roster spots freed up, as you can see, and they need a total of 37 freed up. So that means 30 to go. They now have 83 on the 53-man roster. So that means that they need to get down to 53. That is 30 cuts to go. Once again, the 49ers will officially announce the Tariq Owens waive as part of the larger cluster of moves. We expect a total of 31 today. Well, maybe even some more if you count injury lists, but they need 31 transactions for sure to get under the 53-man limit. And then that will just be the beginning of things. By tomorrow, the 49ers are going to need to add players that they have claimed on the waiver wire. And I'm sure they'll put in some waiver claims. Probably the most intriguing one so far that is available is Malachi Corley. Somebody who was drafted to Robert Saleh's New York Jets last year. Somebody who got some Deebo Samuel comparisons, who was Upton Stout's teammate at Western Kentucky. There's a difference between waives and releases. And a lot of people are going to confuse those two terms over the course of the next several hours. Make sure that you know the difference, and make sure that even reporters, because there's a lot of reporters who are going to have this incorrectly, make sure that you double check to see a player who's cut. Make sure you double check to see if it is actually a waive or actually a release. A release means that that player is free to sign anywhere. We got more news. The 49ers are going to be cutting Dallas Flowers. So let me talk about waves and releases in a little bit. We've got more developing news. The 49ers are going with, it appears, Darrell Luter Jr. instead of Dallas Flowers. I think this is a good sign for Chase Lucas, who had projected to make the team. So this is per Matt Barrows. The 49ers are cutting cornerback Dallas Flowers, who lined up a lot with the first-string defense when Renardo Green was injured. That is Matt's tweet. We can go here to the 49ers roster, and we can remove Dallas Flowers. As you can see, so here, let me just kind of illustrate this dynamic for San Francisco. Lenore Green, obviously the top 2 corners. Then we were wondering, do they take one or both of Flowers and Luter? Because they also have Chase Lucas now, who I think has forced his way onto the roster playing the nickelback position. But in the second half of the game, or essentially over the course of the whole game, but he saw most of his action in that second half, Chase Lucas was playing outside cornerback for the 49ers. against the Chargers. And that was the first time that he had played outside cornerback at this level. And I think that what I wrote and what I said on this show was that perhaps the 49ers were testing Chase Lucas to see if he could fill in as cornerback number 4 on the outside. Because if Lucas can fill in as cornerback number 4, then you don't need both Dallas Flowers and Darrell Luter Jr. on the football team. So Flowers is going to be released. That is a vested vet, so you don't waive him. You release him. We'll explain more on the difference in a little bit. We can remove him from this part of the roster, and we can put him on the cut list down here as a release. I would predict, based on this, that the 49ers will carry Luter, will carry Chase Lucas. Saran Neal is a specialist, so he doesn't really fit into the same clump as some of these DBs, but he is a backup corner for the 49ers. In fact, maybe I even moved Saran Neal into this spot behind Diamador Lenore, although I think that if Upton Stout is healthy, Chase Lucas might be the first one off the bench, given some of the trust that he's earned with the 49ers at that outside cornerback position. So the first 2 cuts are in. The title says the first cut of the day is in. The first 2 cuts are in. Dallas Flowers, and here we have the full list down here. And Terique Owens are the 2 who have been cut to begin today. The 49ers, though, yesterday made a bunch of moves to begin this process. They've got to get it down from 90 to 53. Bradley, Mordecai, Shaquille Brown, Keyshawn Vaughn, Jalen Allen, Terique Owens, Dallas Flowers, with Isaiah Prince going to injured reserve. So he also no longer counts against the 90. That is a total of 8 players that the 49ers have shed from their 90-man roster as they try to move this down to 53. We expect the vast majority of cuts to be announced by the 49ers themselves at around 1 p.m. Pacific time. However, we'll probably hear some of these cuts early, like we've heard the Tariq Owens news and we've heard the Dallas Flowers news from Matt Mayoko and Matt Barrows through probably, I'm guessing that both of those guys heard that news through agents. That's generally how it works. The team is going to release its list, which will be the vast majority of the cuts, but agents can leak information out a little bit sooner. So that's where we're at for the 49ers right now. So anyway, back to waivers versus releases. Somebody is released like Dallas Flowers, reported right now by Matt Barrows. He could sign with another team immediately because he's a vested veteran. He has free agency at the moment that the 49ers cut him. However, players who are on rookie contracts, players with a limited amount of NFL service time, by rule, those guys have to hit the waiver wire. And that means that all other teams are going to have a chance to put in a waiver claim for that player before he hits free agency. The 49ers are number 11 in the waiver claim order because they finished 6-11 last year. The year prior, they were number 31 because they lost the Super Bowl. So number 11 for the 49ers in the claim order means they actually might be able to get their hands on some of these players who they put claims in for. Malachi Corley from the Jets might be one of them, just given the Saleh connection, given the fact that I think the 49ers were interested in him coming out of college at Western Kentucky. He was Upton Stout's teammate at Western Kentucky, so I'm sure the 49ers have seen plenty of Malachi Corley film, and we know all about the receiver logjam that the 49ers are. It's the opposite of a logjam. It is a trouble spot for the 49ers, but there is no logjam of talent at receiver. They might be having a dearth of talent at receivers, so it wouldn't be surprising for them to put in a claim for a receiver or 2 or 3 as some of these guys are waived. And if you do successfully pick up a receiver through the waiver wire, you actually acquire his rookie contract or his existing contract. And normally that would be a rookie contract. In the case of Malachi Corley, who was drafted just last season, he's got 3 years left on that deal at a price of about $1 million this year, 1.3 or 1.4 million next year, and 1.6 or 7 million the year after that. So you could see how rookies or guys early in their rookie deal can present a big-time value add on the waiver wire. And especially for the players who were recently drafted, they're going to be popular. So there's a chance somebody like Malachi Corley gets picked up by one of the teams ahead of the 49ers in the waiver order list. But that's going to factor in much, much more prominently for the 49ers this season, since they do have a younger team, since they do have some of these holes because of injuries, and because they are number 11 in that waiver claim order. So for the 49ers, the first two cuts, I would not say that either the first two cuts were surprises. I know that we had Dallas Flowers listed as being on the 53-man depth chart, but everything that I had written in the San Francisco Standard and everything I talked about regarding the cornerback position was one of my difficult decisions. Would the 49ers take both of Flowers and Luter, or would they only take one of Flowers and Luter? They ended up taking only one of Flowers and Luter. I think that this is a downstream effect of Chase Lucas forcing his way onto the roster. I do expect Chase to be part of the 49ers 53 men once this is all finalized, probably in about 2 or 2.5 hours. We also know that Upton Stout is on his way to being available soon again, even though he has the injury shading and he hadn't been in practice for a couple of weeks. He was moving well on the side field yesterday. Lenore and Green have both recovered from training camp injuries that have held them out for some time. So the 49ers are happy with their two starting outside cornerbacks. Darrell Luter Jr., with the length that he has, I thought he put on a really good final audition. I thought that he was a little bit better than Dallas Flowers in the game against the Chargers. That was a hell of a battle, though. I mean, it looked like Flowers had the lead for quite some time, but Luter's a younger player. 49ers probably like the tools that he's brought to the table. He actually, to this point, has not had a chance to play much cornerback in the regular season. He's been more of a special teams guy for the 49ers, and maybe now as the 49ers number 3 cornerback, Darrell Luter Jr. is going to have more of a chance. Another thing about Darrell Luter Jr. is that he's under contract through 2026. Dallas Flowers was signed as a 1-year vet for 2025, not a guaranteed deal. Luter has 2 years of team control left. So assuming that everything was even, and I think that it was a fairly even battle between Luter and Flowers, the 49ers were likely to go the Luter direction, because if you waive Luter, then you terminate the contract, at least on your end, for 2 seasons. You give up another season of team control for a cornerback who's still developing, who could actually do something for your football team. So for me, it was always a question of, would they carry Luter and Flowers, or would they carry only Luter? I had Flowers on the projection, obviously not anymore. We can move Saran Neal up here to the backup cornerback spot behind Lenore, but Luter is obviously the number 3 for the 49ers. But this is just for housekeeping purposes. Oops, I did not mean to do that. The teal color means that a player is a free agent pickup. Saran Neal, though, he's more like the George Odom for the 49ers this year, a specialist for San Francisco. And then on the Terique Owens side, with that waive, we'll see if he clears waivers. I would expect him to. And that means that there's a good shot that Terique Owens is going to be back on the 49ers practice squad. I mean, he's a very, very developmental piece, right? Still, you could tell, especially at practice, but I think you could tell in some of the games he dropped that one pass against the Raiders. He's still has a long way to go before it's somebody that you trust as far as roster ability floor to take one of those spots for the 49ers, even in a receiving room that is facing a lot of uncertainty. But we're going to wait for these next cuts. Mike has a good point. He says that Sky Moore probably also helps the 49ers with the release of Flowers, since he was the second returner. So Sky Moore is going to be the top returner for the 49ers. We don't expect Junior Bergen to make this roster. That was the writing on the wall when the 49ers did trade for Sky Moore. Well, now the next downstream effect could be something that made Dallas Flowers a little bit more expendable to the 49ers. We got to take this to the Twitter machine right now, or X as they call it. Mike, can you send me links? Actually, I got them here. I'm going to go to Matt's tweet. Well, they're both Matt Mayoko and Matt Barrows. So Mayoko says the 49ers waived wide receiver Terique Owens. He's a strong candidate to return to the team's practice squad if he is not claimed off waivers. I'm going to quote tweet that and say this was obviously expected. Terique Owens is still very much in the developmental phase, coming from basketball at a relatively late age. But the 49ers should be able to continue developing him on the practice squad if they wish to. All right, that's the Tariq Owens story. And now we're going to go to Matt Barrow's report, and we're going to add some context on Dallas Flowers. This is all going to Lombardi himself on X, by the way. I've got to do two things at once. This is like free agency where you guys just get to watch me work a little bit. But hey, we're delivering the news. Hey, can you send me the Barrows tweet, Mike? I don't have a link here in the WhatsApp. If you could send me the Barrows tweet, then I can go from there. That way I don't have to be scrounging looking for it right now. First cuts are in. I'm going to change this right now. The 49ers cut down has started. It started yesterday, but we're going to change this to the first cuts are in. Terique Owens and Dallas Flowers. Boom. Let's get this up on the screen as our new lower third. Hopefully it fits horizontally. You guys think this is going to fit? Yeah, fit. Perfect. I didn't want it to go into that second line. That would have been really frustrating. All right, so now we have the tweet from Barrows. "49ers are cutting Dallas Flowers." So quote tweet Matt and say, this answers one of the biggest roster questions. Would the 49ers carry both Darrell Luter Jr. and Dallas Flowers, or only Luter? Perhaps Chase Lucas's emergence. He played outside CB on Saturday. Encouraged SF to go Luter only. Remember, 2 years of team control versus just 1 for Flowers. Got to make it fit under the character limit. And we sent it out. Boom. Both of those tweets are out. We're good. Are they still called tweets? I think they're called posts now. I think if we want to be correct. I still call them tweets. I mean, it's years of mental habit, right, in that situation. So releases are releases. Waves are different. The 49ers are going to be active on the waiver wire. I'm sure that they've already at least thought of putting in claims on some of these players. It's not going to be official around the league until 1 p.m. Pacific time. I think that's when the 49ers can formally put in waiver claims. A couple things. Juwan Jennings is a player who's probably on everyone's mind. I think there's a good chance, even if they still want to maintain their IR card in the Juwan Jennings saga, I think there's a good chance he makes the 53 today, because they need to make sure that he's eligible to return, even if injured reserve ends up being a thing at the start of this season. To return from injured reserve, you have to make the initial 53-man roster. They already have 2 guys that they can use the return from IR cutdown spots for, and that's Jacob Cowing and that's Kevin Givens. So I don't think that they're going to use one of those on Juwan Jennings, because you could actually buy this an extra day at least with Juwan Jennings by carrying him on the 53, because that would maintain his eligibility to return this season. But by tomorrow, once those waiver claims start processing, you're going to have roster space to absorb some of the players who you put a claim on. And one of the moves the 49ers might make to create roster space is putting Jauan Jennings on injured reserve tomorrow if this is not resolved by then, either the calf or the contract. We don't know what the percentages are between calf and contract, but we do know that Jauan Jennings' week 1 availability is in jeopardy. So I would say that more of a deadline for Jauan Jennings in that whole situation would be Wednesday, because that's when the 49ers will start expanding their roster again and will actually need a little bit more room. Now, there's another one at the receiver room that's interesting. Demarcus Robinson. There's been no formal suspension announcement yet. I've expected throughout this whole time for Demarcus Robinson to actually be on the 49ers initial 53-man roster, but be moved to the suspended list, which doesn't count against the 53 at some point prior to week 1. So they're going to have to account for that over the course of this cut down. Demarcus Robinson on the roster, but won't be by week 1. So you can have a wink deal with somebody like Robbie Chosen if he's going to make the team and say, hey, we expect Dallis to be cut, but why do I keep on saying Dallis? We expect Demarcus Robinson to be cut, but we want you on our 53-man roster. So we're going to cut you for now. But as soon as this suspension, did I say we expect Demarcus to be suspended, but we want you on our 53-man roster. So the minute that Demarcus Robinson's suspended, we're going to bring you back onto the 53. That's how some of these maneuvers could work for the 49ers. And it's going to be especially tricky in the wide receiver room since you're dealing with the Demarcus Robinson suspension, which hadn't been officially implemented yet. And you're also dealing with the real murky situation surrounding Jauan Jennings. Sorry for the mix-up there. It is a suspension for Demarcus Robinson, not a cut. They're not going to cut him, but the league will suspend him, and the 49ers are going to have to work around that. So Mike always texts me these updates, and so he's got, the 49ers and Terique Owens and the 49ers and Dallas Flowers, and then he's like, I think Sky Moore also helped the 49ers move on from Dallas Flowers. And then Mike sends me, Apple will launch the iPhone 17 at the next Apple event on September 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So we also have an iPhone update, courtesy Mike. Thanks, Mike. The iPhone 17, this right here is the iPhone. I think this is the 15 that I've got right here. So we're going to have to upgrade to the 17 on September 9th at 10 a.m. They're going to have the next Apple event then. I'm sure that's going to be happening out of Cupertino. Oh, gosh. Looks like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged. Mike, there's no way to drop our viewer count quicker than announcing the engagement of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But this is what we do because now it's a waiting game. The 49ers are not going to drop the majority of their moves until, I think, all likelihood, about 1 p.m. Pacific time. So we have brought you the first set of moves. This is my article up on the San Francisco Standard on the 49ers first round, or on the 49ers most difficult cuts, analyzing all of those. And one of the scenarios that I talked about was Darrell Luter Jr. and Dallas Flowers. Here you have it. The cornerback complication. One of the interesting twists of Saturday's finale came in the secondary when Chase Lucas, his start at nickelback over the first 2 preseason games, played exclusively at outside cornerback. This was a new position for Lucas. Perhaps the opportunity can be interpreted as a test from the 49ers, who wanted to see if he was capable of being the team's 4th outside cornerback. Dallas Flowers and Darrell Luter Jr. have battled for the number 3 spot over the past month. It seems possible that both make the 53-man roster, but the 49ers believe in Lucas's fill-in ability for the outside. It stands to reason that they can get away with rostering only one of those 2 reserve cornerbacks. Regardless, it seems that Lucas's excellence in the slot and on special teams has punched his ticket. He projects to be Upton Stout's backup. Here, if you want this to be a little bit bigger to read, that we literally predicted this or talked about this maneuver with Dallas Flowers on the San Francisco Standard. I know we've talked about it a lot on the show, but there you go. You could read all about this. Is the tape. This is the visual evidence. We've got it in 4K. The twist came on Saturday when Chase Lucas played outside. He had never done that before. And again, that likely gave the 49ers confidence that Lucas can back up on the outside, can back up Darrell Luter Jr. as the 49ers' fourth outside cornerback. So Lucas is your backup nickel and your to Upton Stout and your fourth string outside corner. That's at least the way that I predict that this is going to go moving forward. And it is therefore not a shock that the 49ers parted ways with one of Dallas Flowers or Darrell Luter Jr. And even if they were even in competition, and I think it's fair to say they looked relatively equal out there on the field, but if they were even in competition, then what you have is Darrell Luter Jr. under contract for 2 more years on his rookie deal, 2025 and 2026, and Dallas Flowers only under contract for 2025. So the 49ers released Flowers, kept Luter. It's a logical move. It makes sense, and it all traces back to Chase Lucas and that second. I keep on saying second half, but we'll just say he played the whole game. He played all of his snaps at outside cornerback against the Chargers, which I think was a very, very interesting clue regarding what the 49ers plan to do at this cornerback spot. All right, any questions about the 49ers' first cuts of the day? We're at a position now where it is a waiting game where the 49ers have, 29 more moves to make? Yeah, 29 more moves to make to get under the 53-man cut down. Any more cuts, Mike? Here's one, and I'm going to put this up on the screen right now to just give you guys some food for thought. I think that this will get you guys thinking over the course of the next 2 hours. And, what you need to do right now, because we're going to have the biggest instant reaction show we have ever had when the 49ers drop all of their cuts. This is like the pregame show. This is just to whet the appetite. But this is going to give you guys some excitement here, maybe some nerves over the course of the next couple hours. And I'm going to put it on the screen. I tweeted this a little while ago. And I know that in my projections, I had said that there wouldn't be any drama in the running back room. This is what I wrote. I had previously discounted the possibility of a surprise in the 49ers running back room, but Shanahan's postgame quote on Saturday about Jeff Wilson Jr., he's definitely going to make it hard on us, has started replaying in my head now. So, for context, at running back, my projection is McCaffrey, Brian Robinson Jr., who's been named the number 2 already, Isaac Guerendo, and Jordan James, with Jeff Wilson Jr. on the outside looking in. This dividing line is the dividing line between the 53 and the 90. Kyle Shanahan literally said Jeff Wilson is definitely going to make it hard on us, implying that Jeff Wilson is going to make a push for a 53-man roster spot. I don't think that there's a way in hell that the 49ers are taking 5 running backs, including the fullback, sure, but I'm not counting Juszczyk. I'm talking about McCaffrey, Robinson, Guerendo, and Jordan James. If Jeff Wilson is going to make it hard on the 49ers, somebody's getting kicked out. It's not going to be McCaffrey. It's not going to be Brian Robinson. Just food for thought. There could be a surprise coming a little bit later today. This is speculative on my part, but it's been replaying in my head. That's what makes today so interesting, is because Kyle Shanahan has dropped some clues, and maybe I was wrong to ignore the big, that quote when he said Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to make it really, and Jeff has run really well. Maybe I was wrong to ignore that quote in my roster projection. I mean, nobody ever has a 53 out of 53 roster projection. Maybe I did make a mistake at running back. I don't know. That is food for thought for all of you over the course of the next 2 hours before the 49ers make their final moves. And when this drops, let's run the biggest instant reaction that we've ever had. I know the Super Bowl was big, but the 49ers lost, so I'm sure a lot of you tuned out at that point. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the alarm bell. Be ready for 49ers Instant Reaction Roster Cut Edition. Be very, very ready for it. First 2 cuts are in, Terique Owens and Dallis Flowers, but the 49ers still have 29 transactions to make. And they're all going to be coming in one fell swoop around 1 p.m. Pacific time. But again, be ready before then. Text it to all your friends. Be tuned in, because that's when we are going live with a big-time show. And it could be before 1, because it all depends on when the 49ers drop the news. Everybody, thanks for watching. Your warm-up show is done, unless Mike has another transaction. Now, the Commanders are releasing Cleveland Farrell. Yeah. Maybe the 49ers are interested, but let's see how they build their roster first through the cut down, the tear down, and then that could be part of the build back up. Talk to you guys soon. We'll see you very, very shortly. Bye.